Hey there, study buds. This is your study bud John. For today's trip to the world of algebra, we will learn more about multiplying and dividing real numbers. Multiplying real numbers. Multiplication rule number 1. Two numbers with the same sign. To multiply two positive or two negative numbers, multiply their absolute values. The product will always be positive. Example 1. Multiply negative 13 and negative 12. First, we will multiply the absolute value of negative 13, which is 13, and negative 12, which is 12. 13 times 12 is equal to 156. The product is positive since the numbers have the same signs. Multiplication rule number 2. Two numbers with different signs. To multiply a positive and a negative number, multiply their absolute values. The product will always be negative. For example, multiply 3 and negative 4. So first, we must multiply the absolute value of 3, which is 3, and the absolute value of negative 4, which is 4. 3 times 4 is equal to 12. Our final answer is negative 12. The product is negative since the numbers have different signs. Tip: when multiplying more than two numbers, the sign of the product can be determined by the number of negative factors. Since each pair of negative factors yields a positive product, the following rule can be applied. If there is an even number of negative factors, the product is positive. If there is an odd number of negative factors, the product is negative. For example, multiply negative 7, negative 1, 4, negative 3, and negative 5. First, we must multiply their absolute values. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7. The absolute value of negative 1 is 1. The absolute value of 4 is 4. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So 7 times 1 times 4 times 3 times 5 is equal to 420. The product is positive since there are 4 even negative factors. Dividing real numbers. Division of real numbers involves the mathematical concept of reciprocals. Reciprocals or multiplicative inverses are two numbers whose product is 1. For example, our number is 3 over 4. Multiplicative inverse is 4 over 3. The product of 3 over 4 and 4 over 3 is equal to 1. Another example, negative 6. Multiplicative inverse of negative 6 is negative 1 over 6. So, negative 6 times negative 1 over 6 is equal to 1. Definition of division. For all real numbers m and n, where n is not equal to 0, since division by a number is defined as multiplying by the reciprocal of the number, any division problem can be written as an equivalent multiplication problem. The rules for multiplying real numbers can be used to decide if the quotient is positive or negative. Example number 1. Divide negative 81 and 3. So first, let us use the reciprocal of 3 and rewrite as multiplication. So negative 81 times 1/3. Then let's multiply the absolute value of negative 81 and negative 1/3. So the absolute value of negative 81, which is 81, and the absolute value of 1/3 is 1/3. So as we multiply, the result is equal to negative 27, which is negative since both of the numbers have different signs. Tip: you may choose to skip the steps of getting the reciprocal and rewriting it as a multiplication problem. Instead, you may directly divide their absolute values and use the same rules from multiplying real numbers to determine the sign of the quotient. For example, divide 25 and negative 5. So first, let's divide the absolute values. The absolute value of 25, which is 25, and the absolute value of negative 5, which is 5. 25 divided by 5 is equal to 5. Our final answer is negative 5. The quotient is negative since the numbers have different signs. Another tip: you cannot divide any number by 0. However, it is possible to divide 0 by any real numbers other than 0. This will always give you a quotient of 0. For example, 0 divided by 3. Dividing 0 by any number will yield 0 as a quotient. So 0 divided by 3 is equal to 0. Another example: divide, if possible, 7 and 0. So 7 divided by 0. 7 divided by 0 is undefined. It is not possible to divide by 0. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoy and learn so much more about multiplying and dividing real numbers. Bye!